Okay, so the first basic skill of a VA that we should learn is reading. So we are going into this, we are going into each of this skill because skills are nothing if not applied. So we will talk about where do we apply those skills and what tools do we use to be able to do so. So we'll start with the first one, reading. So reading can be applied in the following task or in the following work. So one is by application. So when we do job application, we just do not consider those jobs that sounded easy to us, like data entry, email management, calendar entry, commenting, stuff like that. We should not just rely on those jobs that seems easy because of their title and because of what their job description is. Reading greatly applies when we do job application because this is where we are able to find out or to find jobs that perfectly fit us and not just jobs that are easy as they seem. So whenever we read, we make sure that we understand our job, the job posting that we are vying for. It's not that when we read a job post for data entry, for example, and we think that it is easy for us, so we just go ahead and apply without reading the job description. That's not how we do it. We go ahead and read the job description carefully and see if we have what it takes, if it is a scam or not. So that is how we apply reading, by starting with the job application itself. The second or another way that we can apply reading is through our interview. So once we're done with our job application, of course, and ideally, they should be inviting us for a job interview. And before we go move forward to a job interview, we already should be able to read and understand what job we are applying for to begin with. Sometimes they will also email us using their company email address or using their company name. And from there, we should be able to do our research and we should be able to read about the company prior to attending that job interview. So that is another way of practicing or using that basic skill of reading in just the job interview alone. And of course, reading applies during our onboarding with our client because most of the time they train us and they provide us with materials and resources to understand our job better and throughout the job duration. So can you imagine performing a job without reading anything? It it will be very challenging for you and for the client as well to go about the job, transferring information back and forth, critiquing your work back and forth, committing mistakes every time because you're not reading. So that is how important reading is. It goes way back from job application up until your full job duration. Now, what are the tools that is used in reading? Of course, one of those is email. So when you read or when you work with emails, of course, in your personal life, your email should be updated. Your email should always be read. Your email should always be zero. You should always clean and organize your email. Because the thought is, how will you organize somebody else's email if your own email is not organized? So starting now, after this session, go ahead and jump to your Gmail account, read your emails, delete what you don't need, unsubscribe to those that that doesn't give value to you anymore, and start cleaning up your Gmail account. Okay. Another tool that we use for our clients that needs our skill in reading is Google Calendar. As clients, they use Google Calendar mostly in their day-to-day life because this is where they put their schedule. This is where they schedule interviews with you. And of course, when you get free coaching from me, you also get your invites from your Google Calendar. I found out that almost 40% of those people who wanted to have free coaching from me fail to do so because they don't check their email and also their Google Calendar. So again, from now on, after this session, hop into your Google Calendar and check for events that you have missed along the way. Because imagine if that is a client already wanting to interview you and you like missing out on that invite. So another is, of course, your client's website. And of course, Google itself, because that is where we research most of the time. So if we don't utilize Google by reading properly all those results that we come up with our research, then everything will go to waste. And of course, there are other tools that is related to reading. So in just one skill, we have tackled a lot of things with where that particular skill is needed for your job interview. Well, starting with your job application until your job interview, all throughout your job duration, reading is applied. And the tools that you use reading for is your email, your Google session. So essentially, the basic skills that will be talking about today are those that you will use throughout throughout the lifetime of your VA career. These are adaptable and very important part of being a VA. So what are the skills that I am talking about? So first skill we have is reading. So as a coach, as a trainer, as a VA trainer for quite some time, I have been noticing that there are a lot of people who still needs guidance and improvement when it comes to their reading comprehension. So reading is one of the basic skills, not just in being a VA, but in any career for that matter, in any work or um, in everybody's life. It's actually one of our survival skills as well, not just academically. So reading has something to do with us being conscious of what we apply to, us being conscious of or being aware and being informed of certain information that we are interested about. So if you are somebody who's been looking at being a VA, reading should be one of the first skill that you should improve, because when you read, you learn a lot of things. When you read, you communicate better. And when you read, you understand concepts much more. So most of the time, we read, just the first line. We read what we want to read. We read because it's just convenient for us or because it's easier for us without knowing the gist of a certain material or a certain information. So the clients that will be handling as a VA are mostly from the first world country, and they are very heavy readers. So to be able to get along with them and understand them, we have to be readers as well. So that is the most important skill of becoming a VA. You will be able to learn a tool, you will be able to learn a task, you will be able to train better if you know how to read. Much more than if you don't, you know. So number 2 is thinking. So I critical thinking is what comes to mind, but thinking per se is very important. When we read, when we do something, we have to be logical and we have to think about it before diving into something. Most of the time we might be pushed by emotions and by our excitement, especially if we are landing a client. We might be overwhelmed with emotions, especially when we are tasked with a certain task that we're not familiar of. And of course, being VA for long, working alone, working at home, will take a toll on your emotional health in some way. That is why it is important that we think about our task objectively. We think about our strategies on how to go about our VA task every day. We have to think about the decisions that we make when we accept a project or when we accept a client. And that will really reap good results in the future. So before being a VA, make sure that you have clear mind, you have clarity to be able to think about stuff, because having clarity of mind will benefit your clients as well. So if you have a messy mind, of course, your skill to discuss is thinking. So how do you use thinking as one of your skills? I want to be like honest with you, ladies. Sometimes, due to a lot of things happening like around us, due to the busyness of our day to day, thinking has been thinking has been second of our priorities. It's easier to be to rush with our decisions and with our thinking, with how we go about our day to day. It's easier to rush things than to like logically, strategically think about things, because it takes time. It makes us tired. We don't have much time for it. There are other things that we need to prioritize on. And simply, there's a lot of things going on already. So why bother spend much time on like thinking alone? But there are a lot of um bad effects of not thinking clearly before doing anything. One is, of course, you might regret the effects afterwards. Of course, let's just say we want to cook something. So let's do or a case study between thinking of thinking while we're cooking. So example, we want to cook spaghetti. I just did cook spaghetti earlier. So if we don't know how to cook spaghetti beforehand, and we just rely on what we watch, or our bank of ideas on how to do it, we do it without thinking, then most probably it might come off, um, overcooked. It might come off not tasting an ideal spaghetti that we have in mind, because we didn't think about it prior to doing it. We are on a rush. We want to eat already. We have all the ingredients. We don't want to buy time and research and watch YouTube videos on how to make it. So we suffer. So that is one good case study of, doing without thinking first. And thinking is very important in your VA career. It starts with job application again. So if you do not think about the jobs that you apply to and just go around and apply to jobs that sound easy for you, then most of the time you'll suffer in the end. Kaya nangyayari yung mga na-scam kasi nag-a-apply sila sa mga bagay na ang tunog madali. Nakita nilang data entry, nakita nilang email lang, and most of the time nakita nila 2 line lang yung job post. Yun na yung a-applyan nila kasi di na sila mahihirapan. Another thing that thinking has something to do with job application is when you send out cover letters. When my trainees, when I first met them, they are used to using or having a cover letter na copy paste tapos pinapalitan lang nila, and then they use like highfalutin, exaggerated words so that they get a client. And that is one of the things that job application, that is one of the examples of job application without thinking. You just copy paste stuff, you just apply to words na tingin mo madali, data entry, tingin mo madali, dalawa lang yung lines ng job posting. So kaya mo siya a-applyan. And what happens after? Na-scam, pinapagbayad ng security fee kunwari, iba pala yung platform, like hindi pala aligned sa values yung job offer, low baller pala. And those are some of the negative effects of, applying without thinking. Next, thinking also applies to when you do your task. So of course, during your job interview, thinking will already come into play because of course, how will you answer your job interview if you don't think about the questions, right? That's very straightforward. But it also has something to do with your task. So when you perform a task for a client, when you already got that client, you need to think about it rather than, panicking. There are a lot of people na nakikita ko that when their client asks them to do a task and it's their first time, mauuna pa nilang i-post sa mga groups, sa page nila, sa Facebook account nila, sa lahat yata ng pwedeng i-post. Mauuna pa nilang itanong doon. Kaysa pag-isipan muna, i-research muna on their own, think about it, and then if you cannot really understand it, that's the time that you consult other people. Because if your first response when you are faced with confusion is to ask other people, then how will you help your client? Kung walang sumagot sa'yo, kung mabagal yung sumagot sa'yo, and most especially kung mali yung sinagot sa'yo, to sinunod mo pa. So you have to be self-sufficient when it comes to your thinking so that you can perform your task. Right? So so those are and of course, all throughout your job duration. There will be times when your client will ask you your opinions on certain business matters, on certain business decisions that they need to perform. And of course, kung hindi ka nag-iisip at hindi ka logical and strategical sa approach mo, paano mo matutulungan yung client mo mag-isip? Again, two heads are better than one. So that is the second skill of a VA that you should have and that you should be developing. And that is where that skill can be applied to. Now, ano ba yung tools na ginagamit kapag you're thinking? Of course, that is more on when you think, you use the tools such as, of course, sometimes social media. Ang social media, hindi lang siya basta-basta ginagamit to market, to post stuff, to engage. There's thinking alongside it. There's the thinking component. Kasi kung hindi mo pinag-isipan yung post mo, yung reply mo, walang sasagot sa'yo. It will not be sensible for the business itself. Also, email. You have to think about it before you respond to emails. Hindi pwedeng padalos-dalos. And reportings. So, when you give client reports, you need to think about it so that kapag tinanong kayo ng client mo, alam mo kung bakit nangyari yun, kung bakit ganun yung report mo. And also, most importantly, you need to have or to learn how to think when you're doing client communication. As a VA, you are expected to communicate with your client. And if you are a person who doesn't think, it will show. Kasi pag kinausap ka ng client mo at kinausap mo yung client mo, walang connect. Wala kayong connection. Hindi ka niya maiintindihan, hindi mo rin siya maiintindihan. Kasi you do not practice thinking on your own. So that is why thinking is another important skill of being a VA. Now, to wrap it up, the next skill of a VA is thinking, which can be applied during job application. Job interview, because paano ka makakapag-apply kung hindi mo iniisip kung ano yung na-applyan mo? Paano ka makakasagot sa interview kung hindi ka nag-iisip anong pwedeng itanong sa'yo, ano yung background ng business and ng client mo, and ano yung mga pwede mong itanong sa kanila. Paano mo magagawa yung mga task mo kung hindi ka nag-iisip? Aasa ka na lang ba sa pagpo-post sa mga groups, sa pagtatanong sa mga tao before thinking it on your own? And of course, throughout your job duration, how will you stay? How will you be able to prove your essence in a particular position or in a particular job if you are not thinking? So those are the tasks or phases of being a VA where thinking is very vital. Where or what tools are used when you think? First is, of course, social media. When you do your strategies on social media, you should think about it. Next is email or using your Gmail. When you send emails, you think about it first before you send it. You think about it first before you create your response. And lastly, or next is Google. So when you research for something on Google, you just don't take the result and then use it. You think about it kung bagay ba siya, if it makes sense. The same goes with AI. When you use AI, you should also think. Kasi kung hindi mo pinag-iisipan at copy-paste ka lang ng copy-paste, baliwala. Lastly, second to the last will be reporting. When you report your progress or certain information to your client, it should be thought of. Para pag tinanong ka ng client mo, they will know and they will be assured that you know what you're doing. You're thinking about what you're doing. And lastly, you use thinking with client communications. When you communicate with clients, you should foster the skill of thinking because you'll be able to communicate better. You're able to share information better and make you understand. Make them understand you more since you are thinking and you are communicating with your clients. So those are the phases and the tools that you use thinking with. The next skill we'll discuss in just a moment. Consistency. Consistency is very important because it guarantees good service and good results. So if you are consistent with something, you will end up being expert on it. So 'di ba, another case study is kapag nag-aaral tayo, imagine niyo all throughout college, hindi natin, example, hindi natin hinawakan yung libro natin or never nating inaral yung mga lesson natin. Baka wala tayong diploma ngayon. Baka hanggang ngayon, mga fourth year pa rin tayo, magkakaklase tayo. And that is because sa school pa lang, nai-instill na the habit of consistency. Because just going to the school alone every day and attending your subjects. That is why attendance is very important. Nakita nyo ba? Napansin nyo ba na parang sa school, minsan kapag perfect attendance ka, ganun-ganun na lang magpa-perfect grade yung teacher or yung prof nyo, or kapag perfect attendance ka, laging may plus point yung kayo. Tapos kahit, alam mo yon, minsan pag perfect attendance, ano ka na, 100 ka na sa midterms or something. Napapansin nyo ba yon? Hindi dahil tinatamad sila. Hindi dahil feeling nila matalino ka na. Because the purpose of that attendance is to develop consistency in students. Kasi pag consistent ka na at na-develop mo yung skill na yon, that is road towards being an expert. Kung gusto mong maging magaling magluto, kahit hindi ka mag-take ng culinary, you won't be certified or what, you won't be a cook for a 5-star hotel or ship, but you will be a good cook. If you do it like 3 times or 5 times a week, you cook incessantly, kahit pangit yung lasa, ulit-ulitin mo lang, gawin mo lang araw-araw. Someday, time will come, magiging okay kang magluto compared sa mga kasama mo sa bahay na hindi nagluluto talaga. So that is the result of consistency. This consistency that I am talking about has something to do with being a VA. Consistency in checking your emails. Pinag-usapan na natin kanina. Consistency in replying to communication platforms. Excuse me. So, may mga naging trainees ako, meron, when you train with me, when you enroll with me, we will be communicating in a different platform. That is because I also instill the habit of consistency, the skill of consistency to my trainees. So, may mga trainees ako na sa Slack kami nagko-communicate, pero nakikipag-chat pa rin sila saan sa Messenger. And I always tell them, pag tayo dito mag-usap tayo sa Slack because I am developing the skill of consistency. Dahil kapag may client kayo, hindi naman niya kayo kakausapin sa Messenger. Kakausapin niya kayo sa mga communication tools na gagamitin nyo. And kung sa training pa lang natin, hindi nyo na ma-develop yun, na mag-message tayo sa Slack or wherever, mahihirapan kayo to communicate with your client. Unlike me, na I will be, of course, I will be diligent enough to remind you every time na sa Slack tayo mag-usap. Of course, you cannot expect your client to do that. That's different. So that happens, or that is the result of, or that is how you use consistency as a VA. Another use of consistency in a VA is checking in. So most of the time, your clients will ask you to hop on a call, chat them, or send them an email in a regular manner. That is because they wanna check in with you. They wanna know kung nasan ka na, sa mga tasks mo, yung mga projects nyo sa client nyo, ano na ba yung tapos, ano yung kailangan. Pag may problema ba, malalaman nila when you do check-ins with them. And kung hindi kayo consistent sa pag-a-attend ng check-in, magkakaroon kayo ng miscommunication. Yung connection nyo mapuputol. And once na hindi na kayo maintindihan ng client nyo at hindi na mag-work yung communication between you and your client, that is when the relationship will fall off and mapapalitan kayo. So I wanna say that in my experience, the reason why clients, or the reason why I don't accept clients, I quit clients, or why other clients quit on me is because of communication. Pag iniisip ko yung mga clients na hindi ko tinatanggap, yung mga clients na iniwan ako, at yung mga clients na iniwan ko, ang common denominator nila is hindi kami nagkakaintindihan. Not because di ako magaling, not because hindi sila magaling na client. It is because of communication. Kaya ako, when I accept clients or when I work with clients, lagi ko tong sinasabi, compatibility is very important. Sa interview pa lang, pag nag-usap kami, pag in-interview niya ako, I know, mararamdaman ko if we are compatible. Kung mararamdaman ko na compatible kami, tapos in that first week, makikita ko hindi kami compatible, I will be open enough to tell them na, una, syempre, I will try to communicate and explain myself. Ganito yung thought process ko, tama ba yung intindi ko sa'yo, ganito ka. Pero by the end of that week, kapag hindi pa rin kami nagkasundo, I will openly tell them na, I don't think I'm right for this because we seem to not see eye to eye on things. Hindi tayo magkaaway. Pero iba yung understanding ko, iba rin yung understanding mo. And while we work on it, or we try to understand each other, it's really not working. So I think this is not for me. So that is the use of consistency para malaman mo kung maintindihan mo yung client mo, the more that you encounter them, the more that you check your emails, the more that you reply to your communication platforms, the more that you attend your check-ins, iintindihan mo yung ugali niya. Maiintindihan din yung ugali mo. Kung kailan siya nababad trip, alam mo. Kung kailan siya masaya, alam mo. The same goes with you. Alam din ng client mo pag masaya ka, alam ng client mo pag di ka masaya. And that's very important in a relationship because, you know, being a VA with a client is actually a relationship. Okay? So that is where consistency is applied and the tools that you use it for. So checking your emails, you use Gmail. Communication platforms, you have Slack, Viber, marami pang iba, WhatsApp, pero I don't trust WhatsApp eh. Pero anyway, so Slack, Viber, WhatsApp, checking in, Zoom, Slack, Viber. So those are the tools that you use for this. Okay. Again, wrapping up, consistency will guarantee you good service and good results, because when you are consistent, it is your road to being skilled or expert. Consistency is applied in certain tasks such as checking your emails, replying to communication platforms, and checking in. The tools where we use, or where we should be consistent on, are the following: Gmail, Slack, Viber, or WhatsApp, Zoom, Slack, or Viber. Okay? We'll discuss the next VA skill after a while. The last skill, or the last basic skill of being a virtual assistant, is communication. Communication is not just about the language itself, or how fluent you are in the English language. It is more than that. Communication composed of three processes. First is your thought process. Second is your thought organization. And third is your manner of delivery. So with thought process, this is more of an internal thing. How you think about things on your own mind. Are you more of a general to specifics, or specifics to general type of person? That having a skill in communication entails having a good thought process. If your thought process is settled, you will be able to facilitate meetings, check-ins, reporting smoothly or seamlessly. With me, for example, how I process or how I think about things is I go from general to specifics. So it also translates with my meetings, or when I handle reportings or check-ins, that I go from the wider perspective down to the specifics to the end. Now, your thought organization is something that is more external. It is how you present your ideas, how you present your thoughts, how you reflect them so that the other person, or in this case, your client, will understand you. We start with the premise, we follow it with a goal, and we end with our suggestions. So, for example, you are presenting an idea of improving your social media analytics. So, when you present this to your client, you start with the premise. The premise is, hi client, I have a suggestion to improve our social media analytics. That is the premise. Now, the goal, follow it up with the goal. And for example, you tell the client, I know that our goal is to have like 20% new reach every week or every month. That is the goal. Then end it with your suggestions. Now, I am suggesting that we do this, we do that, and we do this. So when you have that type of thought organization, the person receiving your ideas or suggestion will also have a clear picture of what you are trying to say. Because you chop up your ideas and you set the conversation to where you should, or where you want to be going. So that is when you present an idea. Asking questions are also important when it comes to communication. It is actually a solution to a better communication. So when you ask questions, you start, of course, with the premise first. Like, for example, client, I have a question regarding our social media analytics. Be specific. And then after you set your premise, that's the time that you ask your question. What do you mean by reach? That's your question. So the manner of delivery, that's the third part, also matters, because you should be serious and also professional when dealing with your clients. You refrain from using the wrong intonation. Like, example, going back to our premise earlier, I have a suggestion about improving our social media analytics. So if you deliver this in a way such as, I have a suggestion on improving our analytics, that would give out the notion that you are also not sure of what you're saying. So make sure that you use the correct intonation, and also be confident with whatever you say. So another thing is manner of delivery. Make sure that you speak slowly and clearly every time, so that you are you are reflecting the correct ideas, and you are speaking the right words, correct words to your clients. Because we still have different pronunciations on things. We don't have the twang that they have. Um, we have different intonations as well. We have different pronunciations. So we make sure that we speak in a good pacing, so that they understand us as well. It is a tendency that when you're nervous, you you might speak faster than usual, because of course, when there's also a lot of things going to your head, you might be speaking faster than usual. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to work on that to facilitate better communication. So, like what I said, asking questions is also important. It is a success indicator of good communication, because when you have a question in mind, or when you're unsure of something, asking question is the way to go. Clients do not find it insulting or negative when we ask questions. In fact, for them, asking questions is a sign of a wise person. So we shouldn't be afraid of asking questions, because maybe they might think we don't know what they're doing. Maybe they might replace us with somebody who doesn't ask questions, because that will not happen. Clients love people who ask questions rather than assuming stuff. So make sure that you just follow the system or the process wherein you state the premise first, and then you follow it up with your question. Or if you want to suggest something, you start with the premise, follow it up with a goal, and end it with a suggestion. So that is how you use or you foster good communication, which is one of the basic skills of being a VA. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, for this discussion. I would like to invite everybody, if you think that my way of teaching is something that will work for you, then go ahead and add me up on Facebook and send me a message if you are interested to know how I can help you start your VA career. So basically, I can help you find your niche. I do niche assessment. After that, I can also help you start your VA career, of course, and guide you in client application. Alongside that, I also provide CV optimization and cover letter creation. So it's just a matter of executing on your part. Right? So again, if you're interested, go ahead and add me up. My name is Jenny Gregorio. You can find me on facebook.com/Miss Jenny Gregorio. Send me a message that you were able to find or to watch this video, and we'll talk about the next steps to start your VA career. Thank you. Good night.